So I went on vacation for spring break, and as soon as I get home, I start hearing about this James Bear guy, some animator on YouTube that makes general cool animation content as expected. Lo and behold, turns out James ain't exactly the best person in the world, and we'll get into that information shortly. I just gotta say, before we start, my god, was there a lot of shit that I didn't expect to read about this dude, and I generally just don't know what to think about internet personalities anymore after reading all this. In 2017, James is making YouTube videos on his YouTube channel and dating someone named Clarissa, basically just enjoying life and trying to get his dream career on YouTube going like any other content creator would. Around this time, his channel started to gain a following, so of course there were people who knew him from before who started to talk about James and Clarissa, because that kind of stuff happens when you're a public figure whether you like it or not. A Newgrounds user by the name of Awesome Errands would make obsessive posts about Clarissa, such as wanting to move to where she lives, posting a collage of her character from one of James's videos and fawning over her, saying how he hoped James had a good time meeting Clarissa, which is really soon, like soon, and posting the anniversary of when he first met Clarissa on Twitter, along with the conversation they had together about her drawing him some fan art or whatever. Now, as you guys can probably tell, the obsession that Aaron had with James and Clarissa's relationship, and Clarissa herself, is very creepy to look at. I can see if someone likes a certain celebrity or is a fan of them, but the whole wanting to move where she lives and exclaiming how excited he is for James and Clarissa to meet IRL doesn't exactly give people the idea that he's just a fan. There's a very weird obsession going on here from Aaron, and as expected, some people to catch on to this and say their thoughts on him. People call him creepy, say he has a mental issue of some sort for obsessing over Clarissa so much, the whole 9 yards really. Aaron would reply to a specific post someone made saying that he's been getting messages like this all day long, and that he's sorry for the way he's acted, but he just can't seem to control himself whenever he sees a post about Clarissa or her art. It's really strange to see, and it's clear that Aaron's obsession with Clarissa has hit a boiling point now that other people have seen all the posts he's made about her and James and their relationship together. Things would get a bit quiet on his end, but then around early June 2017, Aaron would drop a 182-page Google document called The Truth About James Bear. I'm not lying to you. I wish I was lying to you. Look at the screenshot right here. That is 1 out of 182 pages. I don't know what possesses somebody to write this much about one person, but I'm bewildered, man. The document is honestly a giant mess, to put it lightly. I gave it a read for the first 40 pages or so and soon realized that most of the shit that Aaron is saying is him obsessing over Clarissa again and trying to somehow get her on his side or something. There are parts where Aaron gets mad because James made a suggestive implied joke about Clarissa, or James is being rude for talking about sex to a friend while Clarissa was in the call, and how it's rude and all that. To sum it up, it's basically just Aaron saying James is an asshole and trying to get Clarissa to like him again. And apparently he dated Clarissa in 2016 as seen here, so who knows how deep their relationship even goes. However, despite this giant mess, there is one part that caught my eye, as well as the eyes of many other people. In the first 20 or so pages, Aaron talks about how James always seems to beg for pity on himself in DMs between the two of them, but then the big piece of evidence drops right on page 13. Here you can see a leaked screenshot of James talking about some very fucked up stuff. It starts off with James blaming what he did on depression, and then explaining exactly what he did to his sister when he was 13 and she was 9. He goes on about some other fuck shit that happened in his life and why he's so depressed and such, ending the message with him asking Aaron to tell nobody, which is ironic given this video, but I digress. Now, of course, the rest of the pity party doesn't really matter after the main part, because as you guys can clearly see, James admitted to, well, you know, the word that rhymes with everyone's favorite purple fruit on screen. Around a month later, James is able to convince Aaron to take down the Google document and got him to say it was all fabricated evidence made out of malice to get back at James for being with Clarissa. Of course, once it's on the internet, it stays there forever, and so here we come back to that message James sent to Aaron. I honestly couldn't believe the message was real when I first read it. Like, I was literally mouth agape and all that jazz like a cartoon character from the 60s or whatever. I cannot understand why someone would ever do that to their sister, let alone admit to doing it like it was just some little oopsie, some little mistake that they made. James Bear, at the age of 13, his 9-year-old sister, because it ain't no way that there was any consent involved in this. This had been public news since June of 2017, almost 5 years ago now, and yet it only recently started making the rounds on the internet. The fact that James was able to get Aaron to take down the document itself is surprising, because despite 90% of the ramblings being about his jealousy toward James and Clarissa, Aaron had some crazy shit on James, and it went unseen by relevant eyes for almost 5 years. Some years go by, and on April 1st, 2020, James makes an April Fool's animation shitting on Aaron. If you watch the whole thing, you can clearly tell it's poking at him. Then a few months later, on September 8th, 2020, someone would leak DMs with James where he admits to doing what he did to his sister, only this time instead of telling it to Aaron, he's telling it to another person. James says how he regrets doing what he did, and that people talking about it gets him upset. He goes into more detail how he's ashamed of what he did, and how he feels bad for his sister, and that he hates whoever the person spreading the message around is. He gets grilled a bit more by the leaker, and then says how he's moved on from his past and that he and his sister made up already after the matter. He asks the leaker to not bring it up ever, and that if he catches them saying anything about the situation, he will cut off all communications with them for good. A few days later, on September 12th, 2020, some other people were talking about the leaked messages, and he ended up confirming that yes, he did do that stuff to his sister, but that, and get this, just get this, since he was 13 when he did it, he was a minor himself, as if that makes things any better for him. The jokes just write themselves, folks. He says it was a mistake and that he didn't know it was bad, and how it doesn't define him as a person today. He says he would be taking a break for both his and Clarissa's mental health. So yeah, if he had any doubts about the messages being fake or Photoshop, James confirms it himself that what he did happened, and confirms the leaked messages to be true. I find it insane that James is willing to admit to this kind of stuff. He could have said he's been lying the whole time and it was just a sick joke that got way out of hand, but no, he admits to what he did. This wasn't seen by big eyes and relevant people too, and I specify this because this person, Thinif, made 2 videos way back in October 2020 and January 2021 talking about the leaked message and got disliked bomb because of it. So hey, congrats man, if you're watching this right now, you were right this entire time. Bask in the massive dub that you just got. Now that the news is relevant again, James will come out with a reply to the situation, because popular people have brought eyes to it, and it's just really sad to read, honestly. He apologizes for those upset at the claims made about him, but says that people are character attacking him. He's ashamed of his past and that the harassment he's getting is unwarranted. He says his past wasn't supposed to be public knowledge, and that the document was made by a person who hated him and wanted to ruin his life, and that it was a childish way to try and get him to break up with Clarissa. James goes on to say how this is always brought up against him every now and then, and that he has to constantly respond to people for what he did. He reiterates that it was his past and that no one deserves to know about his personal life because he doesn't need to tell anyone. He ends the reply by saying he doesn't owe anyone attention, and how he's trying to better himself every day, day by day, and that this would be the final time he would respond to the entire situation. It's a pretty cookie cutter response, and well, I mean, what else can you do at this point? The guy has said multiple times that he's just trying to better himself. Hooray, I guess. Before we end off the video, there is also one more piece of evidence, or whatever you want to call it, that I'd like to talk about, but I do want to say now that it is a bit shaky, but does point to James doing some weird things with another person. This person named Caden claims that James was cheating on Clarissa with him, sending flirting messages and nudes to him. Unfortunately, this was on Snapchat, so they are most likely long gone, so for now we just have to treat these as allegations. What makes Caden's claims believable though is that they posted an NSFW animation that they claim James made for them, and shows a screenshot along with that. The animation does look to be in James' style, but in the screenshot you can see that the Discord usernames are both blurred out, so for all we know, this might not actually be James, but given the style is basically the same thing, it is very likely that James made this animation and sent it to Caden, and then on top of that, did send those messages that Caden claims they sent on Snapchat. I do want to point out that there's no way to prove those Snapchat messages happened, but that it is very likely given the NSFW animation, but just make sure to keep an eye on this stuff for the future, because as fucked up as the things James has done, we want to spread around the facts first before going into other things that may or may not be true or don't have enough evidence to apply to it. This is the whole James Bear situation as of now, as of this video currently on this day whenever the hell I release it. He recently changed his name on YouTube to just James, and has lost a decent amount of subscribers since the news became really popular. I'm sure Caden is working on a way to get proof to their messages with James as we speak, possibly talking to Snapchat, and James is probably freaking out now that a lot of people know what he did years ago. It's a disgusting situation overall because James can't undo what he did to his sister, and even if he and his sister are on good terms and have forgiven each other, now a lot of YouTube and a whole bunch of Twitter know what this guy was like and understandably are freaking out over it. Perhaps this will be the last time that James talks about the situation, or perhaps he'll have to deal with this for the rest of his life. All we know for certain is that what he did was disgusting and that he needs to get the proper help to move past that part of his life. What is y'all's opinion on the whole James Bear situation at hand? Is he as bad as people are making him out to be, or is he forgivable despite the very heinous things he did to his sister? Is his internet career over, or do you think he can still salvage it back together once things die down? Make sure to tell me your opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like and subscribe, and as always, with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys later.